But what I also want to do before we get into this is go into the most recent War Within beta dev notes. We got some class tunings. We're not going to go through every single class. We'll probably just do tanks and rogues because it's, some of you don't know, my actual main is a rogue. So we're going to go through that as well. I've seen a couple of them, but I haven't gone too far into it. So yeah, let's check these changes out. So first off, let's see, beta realms are back. That's cool. I didn't realize that they were gone, but I did see a lot of people talking about, you know, how do I explore Dornegal and stuff like that. So that's good. Classes, hero talents that require an investment in other talents will now display as red and show error text if you are missing a dependency. That's a good point. Hold on one second. Let me close my window here. I lied. It's already closed. All right. Let's see. Deathbringer for Death Knight. It's just Frost. We don't need to worry about that for Frost. Sand Lane. Frenzied Bloodthirst now increase the damage of your Death Coil and Death Strike by 4% per stack. Was 3%. It's pretty good. It's a nice little... It's not major, but it's something. Blood. All damage increased by 10%. Okay, so I think I've heard that we're getting just kind of tank buffs for damage across the board, which I don't think is necessarily needed for just like pure damage output. Like obviously it's nice to do more damage, but I think more so the threat issue that we've had across beta could probably be resolved with some more damage. So that's good. I like that. Bone Storm now consumes up to 5 bone shield charges, was 10 and lasts 2 seconds longer per shield spent. I think it's good. Bone Shield or Bone Storm used to just wipe away like all of your stacks pretty much. And you could get killed pretty quickly in the middle of the build up from it. So that's nice. And you also don't lose any duration because it's doubling the time. So that's a huge plus. I'm gonna skip Frost, Unholy, Demon Hunter, Fellscarred. Yeah, Demon Surge damage reduced by 6%. That's probably warranted. I was watching, I think Yoda do like 3 million damage on pulls. Like insane. But he also was talking about how he doesn't like that meta is kind of an offensive cooldown as well, because now he feels like he has to use it as opposed to being able to save it. So that's something of note. Focus Hatred now increases Demon Surge damage by 50% when it strikes a single target. Was 35%. Okay, so we're getting some single target damage out of Fellscarred. Burning Blade now deals 60% of auto attack and chaos strike damage over 6 seconds. Was 15%. That feels like a pretty big jump, you know? Is that 45% increase? That seems pretty hefty. All right, on to Druid. Ruthless Aggression and Druid of the Claw. Ruthless Aggression increases your attack speed by 35%. Was 20%. Seems pretty good. An extra 15% attack speed. It's nice on bears because they just have like that regulated attack speed, so anything that increases it was really nice. Killing Strike increases your agility by 8%. Was 5. Nice. Strike for the Heart increases critical strike chance and damage by 10%. Was 6. Okay, I think a lot of these are more feral, if I'm remembering correctly. These don't really pop up for me as Guardian, but I also don't play a lot of Druid of the Claw, so I could just be missing that. Tear Down the Mighty reduces the cooldown of Feral Frenzy and Pulverize by 10 seconds. I don't think we really ever take Pulverize, so it's not really too major. Guardian. Ravage damage to your primary target increased by 35%. Dreadful wound damage increased by 25%. Empowered shapeshifting increases mangle damage by 15%. Was 10. Bestial strength increases maul and raise damage by 20%. Was 10. Wild power surge increases the damage of your next ferocious bite or rip by 225%. Was 100%. So that's a pretty nice little jump for feral. I mean, for if you're cat weaving. I don't know many people who cat weave. I actually don't know many people who play Druid of the Claw. I was hanging out in a lot of the tank discords this weekend, and the Druid Discord seems to say that Druid of the Claw is like light years ahead of Elun's Chosen. I don't know if they're only speaking in damage terms, which is very possible. I kind of figured it would be ahead in damage, but I haven't seen anybody really playing Druid of the Claw well on beta. Everybody just gets absolutely obliterated, and most people who are playing Druid are playing Arcane Bear. Like kind of like unanimously playing Arcane Bear. So I'm curious to see. I might try some Druid of the Claw today and just see how it feels. Because if the whole Discord is kind of behind that, it's usually in the right direction. But we're gonna try a couple different builds. We're gonna try some Arcane Bear with Raise, which we usually don't even play Raise. Because honestly, every time I play Raise, Ursox Fury's garbage. Like, it's garbage. But we're gonna give it another shot. We're gonna try it, and we'll see what our overall is for it. Maloon's Chosen, Guardian. Lunar Insight increases Moonfire damage by 8%, was 10%. Okay, so they're kind of nerfing the Moonfire damage. Okay. Balance is getting a ton of changes. We're not going to go through that too much, but Guardian, melee auto attack and all bear abilities increased by 20%. That's nice. I think bear already did pretty good damage, so I think that this was just going to help, probably mainly the Arcane Bear that's not taking Raise. It's going to help that a lot with threat. Being able, because I was even swiping, which is bad, but I was just swiping for threat. So if my Thrash and Moonfires, Moonfire damage looks like it got reduced by 15%, but I guess that's not a bear ability technically. But I think like Thrash, Raise will probably be even better for threat. But like I've been thrashing and swiping, just trying to hold aggro on things. So we'll see if it feels any better going into this. We'll do one with just straight up Thorns of Iron, and then we'll do one with Raise, and we'll do one with Druid in the Claw today. So we'll get a couple different bear attempts in. Let's see, Evoker. This was actually big. I was only going to focus on tanks, but Augmentation, getting an Ebb and Might increases primary stat, getting that reduced by 1.5%, and then losing closest clutch mates. Like, this is massive. This is a massive nerf to Aug. Which, I mean, cool. I've always kind of wanted Aug to be a little bit worse. I think people lean into it too much. I think it's very good at the high end and very bad on the low end. And if you're playing in a low end group, you're going to play worse on Aug than any other class, just because it's kind of team related. But this might kind of deter people from doing that in the lower end groups, which I think will be good for Mythic Plus as a whole. Because there was nothing worse than seeing like, oh, you know, +2, and they're over here, we need an Aug. So you don't need an Aug. It's +2. So we'll see if that actually changes. It might make M+ a little bit more inclusive, which I think is always a good thing. All right, let's go down to Monk. Brewmaster, all abilities increased by 15%. So they're just getting that kind of aura buff across all tanks. Nothing really substantial. This is a Mistweaver talent. Okay, nothing really crazy for Brew, just a nice little damage jump. Windwalker got a ton of buffs, which is sweet because I've been playing Windwalker on the side. And then we got Pally. Okay, let's see if Pally is going to survive. We got Holy, we got a ton of Holy. This is not what they needed. I think they already did really good damage. This wasn't it, Blizz. Should have been all defensives increased by 15%. Well, who knows? I still stand by the fact that Pally is probably going to get a massive buff like 2 weeks before we go live. And I think it's going to become like a meta tank. Like, I think it's going to be that weird sleeper class that nobody likes. And then Blizz is going to come out and just do like a 40% buff on all the abilities, add some, revert all the defensive nerfs, and just be like, all right, here's your prop Pally. So we'll see. Priest, Rogue, Fatebound Coin, Heads. Additional stacks now increase damage by 2% per stack, was 1%. Fatebound Coin, Tails, damage increased by 50%. Nice. Lucky Coin, damage increased by 50% or 70%. That's big. Delivered Doom now increases Fatebound Coin, Tails damage by 30% when striking a single target, was 21. So we got a little single target love. Good. Fate Intertwine now duplicates 30% of Envenom critical strike damage to 2 nearby enemies, was 20%. I believe that is Dispatch for Outlaw. So that's nice. That's just like a little added, some added, splash damage. Now we got Trickster, Unseen Blade damage increased by 78%. That's kind of a hefty jump. Okay. I do think Fatebound just gets this. I think Fatebound is just massive now. I think they were close. I think Trickster was a little ahead, but I think Fatebound just takes it. So that's huge. I'm happy for it. Rogues have definitely been needing some gameplay changes, but we'll take some number changes too, I guess. All right. I main outlaw, so we're gonna jump right to outlaw. All ability damage increased by 10%, solid. Auto attack damage increased by 10%, solid. Killing spree damage increased by 8%, solid. Combat potency now increases energy regeneration by 30%. Energy regen for outlaw was really the killer. In between like your stealth windows and your adrenaline rush windows are really, really bad for keep it rolling. So that's huge. That's good. Ace up your sleeve now grants 5 combo points. When triggered was 4. That is something that the entire rogue community has wanted since they changed that to 4. So that's a revert from a long time ago, which is huge because you typically kind of finish at like 5 or 6 combo points in your stealth window. Outside of your stealth window, you're obviously going for a little higher. But when you gave 4, it was like ace up your sleeve was you spam that in stealth. You had 6 seconds in a stealth window. And your goal was to get ace up your sleeve procs to refresh your combo points so you could spam between the eyes over and over and over again. But when you were getting 4 combo points, you had to have a builder in between them to get to 5 to spend. So it felt really, really clunky. And so that's actually a massive, massive W for Outlaw. Sweet. We'll probably play some Outlaw today too. Shaman, I've been playing a little Elemental, but I feel like Elemental got the work. I was in their Discord when the notes dropped and everybody was kind of dooming. I was actually, like I said, I was in all the tank Discords over the weekend. It's so funny to see how each community feels about their class, and how like an outside perspective is so different from it. Like I was in the Pally Discord, I saw somebody say, "At least we're not bears." But at least we're not bears. Bears are great right now. What are you talking about? At least we're not bears. So it's weird. Like everybody dooms on like very odd things that other people don't really think about. So if you're dooming about your class, just relax. It's gonna be okay. All right, warrior shield slam damage increased by 8%. Thank God that's not prod only. My arms warriors with shields are gonna thrive. Colossus. Tide of the battle increases the damage of your revenge by 10% per stack, was 5%. It's kind of massive. Practice strikes increases damage done by mortal strike. Arms, mountain muscle, and scars increase all damage done by 4%. All right, protection. Dominance of the Colossus increases damage dealt to targets by up to 20%, was 10. Nice, okay. Mountain Thane. Mountain Thane's my favorite hero spec for hero tree for Prot Warrior. Thunder Blast damage reduced by 5%. Fantastic. I love that I say it's my favorite. First one's a nerf. Lightning Strike damage is increased by 30%, and ground current damage reduced by 25%. Okay, not kind of balancey, I guess. Melee attack and all abilities increased by 30%. Revenge damage increased by 25%. Execute damage increased by 50%. Devastator damage increased by 25%. That's just like your auto attacks. Shield charge primary target damage increased by 25%, and Ravager damage increased. Oh, maybe I said yeah, Ravager. Okay, I wasn't sure if I mixed those up. Okay, I feel like Warrior may have gotten the weaker buffs because Revenge is something you're not going to be spamming. It's not something you use all the time, so that buff's good but not great. Obviously it's extra damage. It hits 3 targets. It can hit them again. You do use it you do use it a lot. But I'm just saying, like in big pulls, you're kind of trying to keep ignored pain up. You're doing other things. It doesn't really. It's not something that's consistently in the rotation as far as like something you're guaranteed to hit in big pulls. Sometimes you got to use other things, shield slam, shield block, ignore pain if you're trying to just fight for your life through something. You're not really spending rage on revenge when you need to spend it somewhere else. So it's still a good little buff. Ravager damage is probably nice. Shield charge damage is nice. Devastator damage is nice because that's going to be the auto attacks. It's like, I think it's worded super weird how Devastator works, but in my understanding, it's basically your auto attacks. All right, that's pretty much it for tank changes. I don't believe these are live yet, unless we see a new build very soon. They said it would be later in the week. So, okay. So maybe we won't be playing some Outlaw and such today. But we're gonna do some normal stuff. Well, I might get a feel for Judo the Claw off stream, and then when these changes come in, we'll come in and we'll play. I'll definitely play some Raise builds today because even this was Raise builds with Lunar Bear was kind of something that was already talked about and already supposed to be pretty good. I wasn't a fan of it, but let's give it a good old college try. You know what I mean? All right, let's play some games. What do we want to start with? Do we want to go ease in with Brew? Do we want to bust out a Pally? I've actually had fun on my Pally recently. Even if they're weak, I've had a lot of fun with them. I've been playing a lot of Shaman. I did play Evoker for like an hour, but I didn't like it. And so when I saw the nerfs come, I was like, nice. Now I don't feel pressured to do this. Mage Arcane felt significantly worse than the last time I played it. I know I've been doing mostly tank, but I am looking for like my second DPS. And so far, what I've liked the most, weirdly enough, is Fury. Two-handed Fury is always cool. I like that, the double dual wield. I like Windwalker Monk. I like Ellie Shaman. I've kind of wanted to try out Feral, but we might hold off on that for now. Let's start off smooth. Start off with the Brew. And then we'll move over to some Bears. Brew's been feeling really good. I've actually genuinely enjoyed how Brew has played, how Brew's felt in some of the 10s I've done. It's been nice. Now the real kicker is what are the affixes? There's supposed to be a new one actually coming out. War Within, where is it? New placeholder affix on the War Within beta. I'm not going to bring this up, I'm just going to read it. We currently have 3. I believe that a 4th affix will be added as what this affix could do, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it looks like we have another one. I think that Oblivion is the worst one. The one that has the orbs float in. Absolute worst one. Because if you kill the mobs, you still sometimes get stuck with the orbs like way out in Narnia, near packs of mobs you can't go get. And so you just kind of end up in a bad spot. So it's like, what do you go get them and risk pulling or what? All right, let's go for that 10 siege. Oh, quickly, I wanted to see what is below a 10. So if we do some testing on some weaker classes, I want to know what we're getting into. Let's see, what are the 6 affixes? Cool. Okay, so for some reason over the weekend, and I think maybe a little bit of yesterday, the sub 10 affixes, or sub 7, I guess, were 2 different Xalatath bargain, Voidbound and Oblivion, or the Ascendance and Oblivion, and it didn't make sense. It was awful to play. So I'm glad that, I don't know if that was a bug or if they were just running the tests to see if that's what they wanted to do. But I was like, this is awful. Like I was trying to play around with Og, who I've literally never touched Evoker in my life, like since they came out, and deal with like 2 of these back-to-back affixes were so bad. And I think nobody else was really prepared for me either. All right, I gotta grab a 10. All right. So that being said, I haven't really played too much. Oh, gotta be a little rusty. That and my landlord had to come by the other day, actually this morning. So we spent a bunch of time cleaning the house, making it look nice and pristine, like a bunch of gamers didn't live here. And I wanted to stream yesterday, but when that popped up, it's like, all right, we're gonna take a little, we're gonna skip today, and we're gonna just zoom in. I've been playing around with some of the talents on Brew too. Not taking Ox Dance unless I feel like I need to, and things like Stone Vault where you just get hit really, really hard. But Siege, I don't think I really need to. Kind of playing around with Quick Sip or August Blessing. I want to do a run with August Blessing to see how much it actually heals. I don't think it does. I don't think it's gonna do much. I'll probably swap one of these for Detox here. I think one of the, I don't know what I want to swap out for though. I love Lighter Than Air, but it's definitely something that could go. Fortifying Brew, we're gonna obviously keep all of that. Increase your leg sweep range by 4 yards, we're gonna keep all of that. Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, I think we're basically getting rid of Vivacious Vivify or Touch of Death, which, what is the affix for this right now? Voidbound. I probably keep Voidbound for Touch of Death, or for Touch of Death for Voidbound. But I don't know. I want to drop something to get that, because there's a couple pulls right towards the end of Siege where they poison you, and it does a shit ton of damage. If the healer's not on it, you can get kind of rocked. And I always like doing whatever I can. Like I could probably drop that for Justice Dungeon. Oh wait, Transcendence. Boom, there we go. I was playing around with double Transcendence for 10% of your health, because you can drop it, Transcendence, and you get 20% back. It kind of took too long. Before, when it was 15%, you used to make, you get 30% in 2 seconds, which was a lot better. But the 10%'s not as worthwhile, or didn't feel like it, at least. I am running a lot more defensives. Dampen Harm, Diffuse Magic instead of Yu'lon's Grace. Yu'lon's Grace lost a lot of value when they changed the build-up timer. Okay, let's go Frost Mage. Transcendence. Where's... Oh, I wonder where I put it last time. Ooh. I was a little concerned when I was playing around with Brew, because I was doing just like some like necrotic, 12 level 12 pulls, like that first pull. Kind of get rattled as Brew. But playing it with a healer, you're just so fine. And I think certain healers that put out a lot of consistent healing really thrive with Brew. So that was nice. I think I played with a couple different ones. Preservation seemed like it was an absolute beast to be with Brew. Never felt in danger. Oh, it was just kind of ping-ponging on my health, but just chilling. So I did like Preservation. I think Prez is actually doing really good right now. I'm not too familiar with the healer world, but they need to make these stack. Why don't they stack? This is horrible. I'm gonna carry around 40 of those in my bag. Just have a dedicated bag for weapon stones. Hey, yeah, whatever. Let's go for it. Dawn God X. Okay. Okay, why did you even sign up? Usually I don't focus too much on DPS until we get a healer. I don't think I want to run this. It's actually really good, but I don't want to run that. I don't want to run that either. The tank stuff sucks. I like this one. I think it's just a nice big old stat boost that you don't need to worry about. You can just kind of let it run in the background. And it does get up to, what, 5,000 agility? It's a nice little chunk. What are these? I've seen a bunch of people running around with these. Diamond Mech Suit. Pretty nifty. Bang. All right, come on. Where is the groups? Is it just because it's Siege? Do people hate Siege that much? Sure, let's take a Balanced Druid. Balanced Druids have battle res, right? I think so. Didn't mean to yell hey at him. All right, come on, healers. Come on, healers. I think Moon. Yeah. We had a very long day yesterday, so I'm still a little dragging. I think Balanced Druids are really good in AoE and kind of weak in single target right now, which is okay. I don't really want to do double mage. As good as he may be, I don't really want to do double mage. Kind of want like a survival lock or DK. Mainly because the first boss can be an absolute demon on squishies with the frontal that you just have to kind of take. And if you're not popping defensives and and preparing for it. If you're squishy, you just get annihilated. So I don't want to, if I can have minimal squish, then I think we're in a good spot. So DK, warrior, survival hunter. I wouldn't mind a rogue. I always take rogues. Gotta help them out. Nobody's playing them. I probably grouped with like 4 rogues on beta. But with outlaw basically just got back-to-back 15% damage increases. Like, not like, oh, 15% attack power or auto attacks, whatever, but those buffs as a whole probably equate to about 15% damage increase, and we've got back-to-back 15% damage increases. So well, I'm curious to see how we do. I got the sniffles, man. We were cleaning, all the dust was up. I was having a hard time breathing. And now I'm feeling it. My back's sore. I'm getting old, man. My nose is all stuffed up. I'm just sniffling. Just sniffling. Dude, this is a slow fill. I might have just take whoever. Ugh. Come on. Give me something good. If we don't do Siege, we can probably try like City of Threads or Grim. I literally have never done Dawnbreaker on this guy. I've done him on my other monk, but fucking hate that dungeon. Definitely need to do a Stormvault. Stormvault I like, and I only have a 3. Oh, come on. Where are signs at? What? Like signups? I don't know. What? My wife sent me pictures of owls. Yeah, you know what? Let's take an enhanced shaman. I fuck with an enhanced shaman. I think after the Ellie changes, enhanced is a lot stronger, and I think Stormbringer is a lot. Yeah. Stormbringer feels like it's a lot more in line with Farseer. Oh, I'm gonna invite those. Whoever gets in there first. Tight. Did that work? Who left? Biddy, Grisham, and Arla. Whatever. Works for me. Do a quick little oh, I'm not playing with any sound. I'm like, why is it so quiet? Gotta play with sound. Oh, Siege. Be good. Oh no. Damn it. We lost. We got the other elemental shaman. That sucks. They both joined at the same time. I didn't know who was who, and the guy left. So now we have an enhance and an elemental. Who? How did we do this? We had this. Oh yeah, okay. We needed a healer in DPS. We had 2 shaman options. I didn't know who was who. I would have just kicked one. I've been like, sorry fam. It is what it is. I really wish you could cancel invites. It's kind of stupid that you have to, once that invite's out, you have to kind of just leave it out there. I've misclicked people and then been like, oh, we're kind of fucked if they join. Are there people on the guild? They are. There's people who have guilds. Best in Beta's got 449 people in a beta guild? Interesting. Just touch of death that boy.
I'm out of range.
Heroes, we'll secure the docks while you push further into the district. With any luck, we'll drive this scum from the city before high tide.
My doggo's doing. I'm not sure where the other one is. Probably laying into bed. Come on, healers. Come on, healers. All right. May God guide us on our quest. We got a bunch of fucking shamans in here. Okay, no, we had one. The other guy left. Okay, I thought we had 3 shamans. What is going on here?
Shockwave. Shockwave.
Why is this dude doing this?
I must get closer.
You know what? I'm just gonna say it. I'm glad you died.
Shockwave.
It's not boding well for the group. Why isn't he releasing? Okay. Don't res him. Go ready check while he's dead. There you go. Feel like I'm missing a buff, but I could be wrong. All right, little siege, a little countdown. This is my first dungeon in a couple days.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Bloodlust first pull. I don't know.
Heroes, we'll secure the docks while you push further. With any luck, we'll drive this. With any luck, we'll drive
Up to y'all. I don't care.
city before high tide.
I don't see a bloodlust going out.
Shockwave.
It's weird having because I moved a bunch of my abilities to make room for the other ones. So it's kind of weird to have them off a little bit.
Shockwave.
I also got having DBM back is crazy. Whoa. I don't even think I drank a brew last time.
Interrupt. Shockwave. Whirlwind.
Too far away.
What happened? Got a bunch of breakers.
Whirlwind. Shockwave.
Whirlwind. Shockwave. Whirlwind. There's so much going on. There's the void guy right after I spend that. Boom, boom.
Whirlwind. Shockwave.
Did you just get frontaled? That's a no-go. It's impossible to see. See, no problem. That was frontal. All right, big pull, big pull. I'm actually gonna use a little dampen harm.
Shockwave. Shockwave.
They are just shockwaving me back and forth. Okay, that's not good. We're gonna get stunned. I'm gonna pop a shield in hopes of saving something. Nope, nope, nope. Thank God for a stagger. That frontal would probably just nuke me if I didn't have it. We're chilling though.
Shockwave.
Where it's like a very sloppy pulls, but we're getting it done, so it's okay. Kind of works, I guess. See, the whole casting right after one another is kind of ass. Little booty cheeks, just get rid of that. Come on. Bang, bang. Why, oh why are we pulling so much? What is going on? Okay. Maybe we go right. All right, let's just go right then. Forget about. Well, okay, if they pull again.
Shockwave.
Oh my God.
Shockwave.
Server shut down. Disconnected. Great. Wait, it's just down now? What the fuck? Oh, new beta build then. Oh, okay, okay. Maybe it's not the end of everything. They were way off on that server shutdown, though. I'll tell you that. Okay. Let's see. What do we do? We watch some YouTube videos. Well, I mean, on the plus side, we're getting all our changes. So that's kind of cool. There's not too many changes for the tanks aside from just like kind of flat damage increases, but Outlaw is getting there, so that's a good one. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, all right, middle of siege, nice siege 10 gone. Okay. No, I don't know if we were gonna do it. That was a really sloppy group. Sometimes you can feel it right away. It was like we were getting everything done, like just going through the motions, but every pull was always like, huh, like it was always on edge. Which usually ends up being some of the most fun runs because it's always just like, oh boy. But hey, we'll do it when it comes back online. Now the thing is, what do we do until then? Do we have any other changes to talk about? Do we just watch some reaction videos? Do I react to Max reacting to the changes? Yeah. So much for stream. That's kind of unfortunate. Wait, am I? It is. Hold on. I'm gonna pop on Jack's stream because it looks like he's still in.
The 30th of July, we have some balance changes, and we're gonna be.
Oh, this is a video.
Like.
Yeah, it looks like he got kicked out too.
So it's afflicted, but.
Did he get?
Why do...
Wait a minute. Did he get kicked out right at the end of his necrotic? Okay, it was right after they finished necrotic.
Hey.
All right. What do you guys want to talk about? Who's your favorite tank? What tank is good? What tank's gonna be the meta tank? I'm convinced because of how bad Paladin is right now that they're gonna be meta tank season 1. Oh, also. Let's see. While we're here, I'm gonna do a little shameless promotion. Go look at my Twitter and do things on Twitter. Oh, wrong window. Wrong window. There we go. Go follow my Twitter. I post some funny stuff every so often. And I'm gonna say it right now. Like I said, Pallies are probably gonna be up there. Right here, July 26th. Clock it. Hey, Valentina. Prop Pallies is going to get a wild set of changes 1 to 2 weeks before launch. Become meta tanks in the War Within. I personally guarantee it. Telling you. So it's going to happen. They're just going to get buffed to oblivion, and people are going to start running them because they're already not bad. They're like a couple buffs from like being strong. I'm doing good, Valentina. How are you? Let's see. Are there any good videos? Let's actually Dorky just put out a video of him going over his favorite tanks. Let's look at Dorky. Let's see what he's got to say about the tanks. I think I put it on to fall asleep to, and it fell asleep. Thanks. It's got a bunch of Norse symbols on it. I was actually cleaning my house yesterday and we found it, my wife and I. I fell asleep at like the 10-minute mark, I think.
From past jobs, in fact.
Pre-patch is finally out, and classes are probably not seeing any more.
I think I fell asleep on his Pally talk.
Likely be number tuning from here.
Where it
I've
is.
been playing all the tanks, and this video will cover my thoughts on all of them.
All right, let's see what Dorky's saying.
Blood has been the most reworked and different feeling tank in the War Within. It's been pretty fun to play with the addition of Bone Storm and Exterminate. Personally, I don't like how bloated the opener feels, especially with Deathbringer. You have to go to a pole, drop your D&D, put up Dancing Room Weapon.
Dude, D&D is the worst part about Blood DK. Like, I hate having to drop it. I am from the United States on the West Coast.
Bone Storm on cooldown, get Reaper's Mark rolling, and then you can finally start playing the game. Death Streak changes were well needed in my opinion for a healthier Blood DK gameplay, but it does lead to a couple of problematic interactions. One is the double Death Strike scenario. When one Death Strike isn't enough to bring your health to a threshold,
double Death Strike was always nice.
The incoming attack, you would normally hit a second Death Strike, but this second Death Strike is now insufficient in healing. It's a rare scenario in most M+ scenarios, but it was once a natural way of playing, and
yeah, because right now in most M+ scenarios, if you double Death Strike, you still get a ton of benefit out of the second one because there's so much damage coming in that oh nice, my wife's family's from Texas, or moved to Texas. But yeah, you used to be able to double Death Strike and get some health back, and then now it's like if you're taking low damage, the second Death Strike's pretty bad. But if you're taking a high amount of damage, you can double Death Strike and get a bunch of health back. In like a 2-second window. Maybe not direct back to back, but you can get it pretty quick.
Is now heavily punished. The second is using Death Strike strictly to not overcap your runic power, which can lead to smaller subsequent Death Strike healing. Overall, this nerf shouldn't affect DK's survivability as much as it seems. It is looking to be one of the strongest tanks currently.
This rogue's kind of
The
pumping over
Deathbringer
here.
tree is currently the stronger hero talent even after nerfs, and it's super satisfying to hit those.
I like
summon
Deathbringer.
types.
Out of that and
DK is
Saline, I
doing
like
some of the
Deathbringer a lot
highest
more.
overall
Saline had
damage
or
right now,
Sanlane had like a weird setup. Not a weird setup, but a time-consuming one. Deathbringer is a little bit better with an already bloated opener.
It doesn't provide a raid buff the same way some of the other tanks do. It also
I have been
survives extremely
streaming
well, especially with how much
on and
more
off for
reliant
probably a
tanks
couple
are on
years. I take like year breaks.
by far the biggest
But I've been
reveal
getting into like
is
content creation,
plus.
making WoW
That's kind
videos
of
and
what I
stuff.
was
So
like
streaming
before.
is kind of part of that.
The
I've been a lot more
but it will
consistent than I
require
ever
a
have
little bit
been.
of
So
healing in
I've been
certain
enjoying it.
scenarios, like the ones where I've mentioned you can't necessarily top yourself with a single Death Strike anymore. Right now on beta, Blood DK definitely feels like a contender for the top tanks.
I love that Blood DK is considered like the tank you don't need to heal, and Growl is still giving almost 800k healing per second into him. That's crazy.
With how strong their defensives are.
Well, maybe not into
how
him, but just
powerful
in
they are
general.
Offensively. But I don't know how well this leads into the very highest keys when the game goes live. Generally, Blood Decay falls off as you go into higher keys because of how much more susceptible
I just make
you are to
videos
getting
about
healed
WoW.
from 100 to 0 before you can Death Strike with larger pulls and infinitely scaled mobs. Before the tank nerfs, Blood Shield was a way for Blood Decay to have a higher effective HP pool, but
Yeah, the
nerfs,
shield kind of
Death
was
Strike and
probably the
nerf
biggest
Blood
nerf out of
Shield
all of them. Death Strike's
really impact
very manageable to swap your player around, but not being able to build that 100% shield
that
was kind of whack.
and it does make them a lot more vulnerable in these situations where you don't have as much effective HP to stay alive. I have tried Blood Decay in some of the higher keys on beta, and it was starting to get to that point, but it's very hard to gauge off of beta dungeons. On beta, we're
True.
basically playing full YOLO as if it was a pug, so we don't actually get to see.
Yeah, and in beta you're also
what we
613,
can
so
do
he's probably going to be
plus
30 eye
the
levels
way is
higher
gonna be
doing his
on
high
some
keys.
tank
So
for
it's
at
like,
least close to the highest keys, if not the highest keys, and probably the best tank to play when pugging, since you're not as reliant on the healer or your group to be doing everything to keep the tank alive.
Picture this. You're sitting at home
Better help.
watching YouTube videos, wondering why you can't find the motivation to do the things
Thank you, I
want
appreciate
to do
that.
or change in
I do what I can. Like I said, I've actually had
mental health.
The tank
pretty
I've been
substantial
playing the most
growth on my YouTube channel in the past like month or so, which has been really good. I think I'm at 900 and something subs. I think I got like 200 in the last couple of weeks. So we're approaching that 1,000 mark, which is
on beta
exciting.
tank.
All right. What do you have to say about
Is
Guardian?
currently the better choice for the M+ hero talent, and it's not actually even close. It plays very much the same as Old Bear, where you just
Yeah.
mash your buttons.
I don't
You
understand
have
the
Lunar
people
Vision
saying that Druid of the Claw is better. I think a
down
Loon is like
offensively and
clearly
defensively
better.
on a pretty short cooldown. Even though it's super simple to
I
play,
like
I'm
Dorky.
actually
I feel like he's pretty level-headed too against on his like recommendations for
I know some of
things.
you guys hate Bear Tank for how boring and simple it can be, but
It's very
for a lot of
boring.
us Bear
Very
enjoyers out
boring.
There is something cathartic about just mashing the same few buttons over and over. I do feel like when I'm playing tank, or Bear Tank specifically, I can focus more on the game rather than staring at my
That's true.
UI,
I wish
figuring
Bears had
out
some
how
more
to
like group utility, like WOG for Pallies, because they have the kit that allows them to like multitask a lot easier than like when I go from playing Brew to playing Bear and I just have 3 buttons that I rotate. It's so simple. It's like relaxing, and you just stay alive so easily. It's nice. But I wish I could like help other people. When we had Dream of Cenarius, that was nice. But since the macro broke, it's kind of like dangerous to play.
manage all my defensives and mitigation and optimizing my damage rotation.
And also, Barkskin at a 40% DR with a 30% increase to healing or 20% increase to healing taken, and on a 34-second cooldown is absolutely crazy. You can literally just get through the whole dungeons using just that and nothing else.
The tank nerfs do make Bear require a bit more healing here and there, but Bear is still largely self-sustainable. Bear
Yeah.
has a lot of strong defensive cooldowns, allowing them to survive super large and dangerous pulls, and occasional large tank busters. Bark Skin is now a 30% DR, and with reinforced fur, it actually goes up to 40%, which is kind of ridiculous for
There you
something
go.
that lasts for so long and has such a short CD. The only weakness Bear has right now is outside of their defensive cooldowns, they are a bit squishy.
I appreciate it, Valentina. I'm not necessarily looking for anything right now. I'm kind of just doing my own thing. I do appreciate the offer, though. Maybe in the future.
Heavily nerfed. I've been messing around with both Incarn and no Incarn builds, and so far I've been leaning towards Incarn. Bear damage is really high at the moment with Elun's Chosen.
I haven't been rocking the Incarn build. I've been doing the Berserker leading up to it.
Not prepared.
Thanks for the follow, Valentina. I actually don't have a Discord right now. I want to set one up. I think I'm going to set one up at 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and then that'll be pretty good. But yeah, I found myself not using Incarn a lot. I kind of do. I think I go with the 10% damage reduction with Moonfire, because it's out so often and you tag everything that you pretty much just have a flat 10% DR all the time.
Mark of the Wild. We've seen raid buffs play a large role in Dragonflight, especially ones as powerful as Mark of the Wild. And currently all the other druid specs kind of suck. I'm leaning towards Bear.
I don't have a threat, so I don't know what that is.
Season and plus, but not by much.
I have a Twitter.
It doesn't feel quite as good as Blood Decay.
Susano, wow.
YOLO keys where you don't know.
By the way, when I made this account, I was underestimating how many people would call me Susan. I was in Jack's stream today and asked him a question about how he was splitting music between Twitch and YouTube, and he's like, "Oh, it's just a splitter, Susan." And I was like, "Man, I didn't expect. I thought a lot of people would catch that it's Susano and not Susan, but it is what it is."
Who you're playing with, you don't know if you have like a healer that can be reliable in the group. Maybe you're not playing with an augmentation evoker, but in the hierarchies it does feel more reliable than Blood Decay, and it does provide group buffs like Mark Wild and other druid utility. And the druid dispel this season is actually really big with these season 1 dungeons. One of my favorite tanks to play at the moment on beta is Brewmaster.
Hey,
Brew actually feels
Brewmaster.
good. Probably the best it's felt in forever, and it's actually really fun to play. It still has just as many buttons as before.
Brewmaster
but
is
the
my
overview
favorite.
is much simpler and quicker. Basically the opposite of what has happened with Blood Decay. Before, you had to drop your White Tiger statue, keep rushing Jadewind up, use Weapons of Order, Bone Dust Brew, Exploding Keg, then you can finally play the game. Now it's just Weapons of Order and Exploding Keg and just go ham.
Yeah,
There's
it's a
no
lot
need
simpler to play.
Rushing Jadewind or Newzal, which reduces some
It's-
buttons,
it's-
Bone Dust Brew.
It's simpler to play, but you, like you said, you can have just as many buttons. Like if you're running dampen harm, diffuse magic, rushing Jadewind, like all these different things, you can load up on buttons, but you can also play extremely passively, and still be pretty sufficient up into, still be able to do 10 keys no problem.
And statue are gone, and it's a lot smoother to play. Both hero talents seem good, and the new talent Ox Stance helps a lot in a lot of large tank buster situations. Ox Stance basically gives you a ton of stagger against harsh hits, which was a weakness of Brew when you didn't have enough defensive cooldowns to deal with certain tank buster mechanics. This is
Yeah,
probably
Ox
the
Stance is
tank
it's
buff
really
that
good in
makes
certain
sense,
dungeons, it's
but
pretty
as
useless in
usual,
others.
Brew does soak up a ton of healing, making it extremely powerful with a lot of external healing and augmentation evoker. Brew damage is right up there with Bear.
I'm probably gonna main Brewmaster. It's been the tank I enjoy the most. I'll probably play Bear too on the side, depending on how good Bear is. And then for my DPS, I'm thinking of Rogue if they keep getting buffs and if they get their gameplay fixed a little bit. That's what I've played for 20 years. Or like Windwalker or Ellie Shammy feel fun too.
Bear and Blood Decay, and it does give Mystic Touch, but Mystic Touch is much weaker of a raid buff because of how little physical damage classes do
Yeah,
nowadays. Even
unfortunate.
your typical melees like Frost Decay or Red Paladin or Enhancement Shaman, they all do largely magical damage. It's a lot less popular of a tank.
It's a good point too. Yeah, even the
probably
physical
won't see it
classes do a
being
lot of
played as
magic.
much, but I do think this is the best Brew has been, and it'll likely keep up in the highest keys with other tanks. In some scenarios,
Okay, I'm gonna pause this for a second because in my recent tank video, I talked about top 3 tanks being relatively interchangeable depending on what you play. And my top 3 tanks were Brew, Arcane Bear, and Blood Decay. So right now, I'm 3 for 3.
I actually do find Brew to be the strongest. When it comes to tanking bosses with a ton of dangerous tank busters, Brew feels amazing. With
Yep.
a ton of healing and augmentation evoker, Brew feels almost unkillable. It's not as self-sufficient as Bear or Blood Decay,
True,
making
true,
it feel
very
worse
true.
in
I mean,
the
Bear and
low
Blood
health
Decay are kind of
scenarios,
off the
but
charts
don't
for
let
it.
this stop you from playing the awesome tank that is Brewmaster.
I think Brew is in a great spot right now. Oh, let's see what Ryan Reynolds has to say about Mint Mobile.
They charge you a lot?
If you haven't played Tank, Jim, I recommend playing Arcane Bear. Super easy to play, very easy to learn how to be a tank while you're playing a very strong tank and not having to worry about all the different abilities and all the different defensives and all these different things. You can literally just like Bark Skin, Incarn, and big pulls, spam Frenzied Regen if you need it, and then otherwise Mangle, Thrash, Moonfire, and you're just kind of chilling.
Dominated for
I know that there's probably a bunch of people in the Druid Discord who would be up in arms at me saying to just kind of do Arcane Bear the easiest way possible, but it's super effective.
good later half of Dragonflight, and people have been fed up with this tank being meta for so long. Well, don't worry, because Demon Hunter is now dead and gone. I'm just kidding, but Vengeance is not that bad after a couple of buffs recently. Right now, it's definitely a shadow of its former self, making it feel pretty bad. The tier set and Luminous Angels carried VDH for...
I don't think the VDH is bad. I think it's very bad in comparison to what it was. So it feels, rather than it just feeling like a average B tier tank, it feels like a D tier because you were so used to being an S tier for the last 2 seasons of Dragonflight.
for its duration in Dragonflight, and it's now gone, making the Sigil build dead. Well, Illuminated Sigil is not gone, but it is heavily nerfed. Right now it feels like older versions of Demon Hunter with the double brand build, just a lot weaker. Silent Sigil was a 60-second cooldown and 6-second duration, but it's now 90-second cooldown and a 4-second duration.
Dude, their control
Despite
would
the
be
large
so
nerfs,
valuable
Demon
right
Hunter
now
is
if they
still a
had
solid
it
tank.
still.
Currently, Felsguard feels like the stronger hero talent for M+. It's been both fun, but also feels bad to play with.
I'm gonna play some Druid today. It's a lot of fun. It's easy to play. Like you can kind of relax while you're doing it.
Biggest defensive cooldown. When you use it for damage, it feels really good because of how hard you can burst. But there will be
Yeah,
scenarios where you
watch
want
his Dorky's
conflict,
burst here.
and
I've
you
seen.
are
I was
losing
watching
out
the
on a ton
stream.
of damage when you do that. For the longest time, I never had to worry about putting meta on cooldown, and I always had it as a defensive to fill in the defensive gaps. But now it's an actual DPS loss.
1.5 mil, 1.7.
Overall, Demon Hunter
2 million
will still be a
DPS,
strong
2
tank that
2.1.
brings high damage to the group. It does
2-2.
very
Like
slightly
he's
less
he's
than other
ripping
tanks
on
mentioned,
this.
but it does bring Chaos Brand. That has insane value in the caster meta. Demon Hunter utility is also nowhere near as good as it was before, especially with how they reworked M+ mobs to recast, so just using one of your many stops won't do a lot compared to Dragonflight.
That's a huge nerf for VDH. VDH still had the most control out of any tank, and in the beta in the War Within, things don't stop casting when you stun it. They just cast immediately right afterwards. So the fact that they have like 5 stuns really doesn't do as much anymore, because they're just going to cast right after it. So that's actually probably the biggest nerf to VDH, more so than any other tank.
VDH is
I tried DK, but I can't get into it. I've never really liked their playstyle. I've played it a handful of times. I'm kind of the same way. I'm not a huge
also
DK
a bit squishy
fan.
in some scenarios, and definitely promotes a kiting playstyle when doing hierarchies.
They're
and bigger
cool,
goals.
but they have some
It
good
kinda
utility,
reminds me
but
of
never been a
Season 1
huge
of
fan.
Shadowlands playing this tank. On bosses, it's still pretty powerful with the frailty build, but it has been nerfed quite heavily, making it require a bit of healing to stay topped when Soul and Leech healing isn't enough.
Yeah.
Propellant has been the most doomed
Here
on
we
tank
go.
for most of the beta cycle. There's been a lot of complaints about how poorly Propellant is doing. Personally, I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be.
I agree.
after the
I
most
like
recent
playing
set of buffs.
Pally.
Paladin's definitely feeling worse than before, and it has been affected heavily by the tank nerfs, but honestly, all the tanks don't feel that great, and it's just sort of how Blizzard
Agreed.
wants tanks to be designed. I haven't messed too much with the Templar hero talent tree, but for the brief moment I played it, it was extremely clunky due to the high holy power cost and the
Lightsmith's
low
pretty good.
holy power economy currently. Lightsmith plays exactly the same as usual, except now you have an extra button and it just adds a little bit of damage, or shield that you can put on an ally. And Lightsmith does seem a little bit overtuned at the moment, so I wouldn't be surprised if it receives some nerfs to be more in line with
That's gonna
Templar.
happen. They're gonna get a
Still
Lightsmith
offers a
nerf,
ton
but they're
of
gonna buff
utility,
everything else.
especially with the M+ changes that made interrupts more valuable than stops. The Avenger Shield interrupts are actually huge to have once again, but the spec does itself feel a little bit weak defensively. I've found Paladin to be extremely extremely reliant on the healer to stay alive, but it
Yep.
is capable of surviving, especially
Kinda
with
like
its
Brat
large
Warrior.
array of defensive cooldowns. It's a bit awkward because on one hand, paladins are completely fine as long as you have an augmentation evoker and sufficient healing, but on the other hand, this crutch feels really bad, which is part of why a lot of paladins are dooming so heavily. Paladin damage is also extremely good at the moment. I was very surprised by the numbers this
Very
character
good.
put up, and it might actually be the highest damage tank in AoE heavy dungeons. I can see Paladin being quite good in hierarchies with a good group, but it might struggle when pugging. Some dungeons also stink real bad for Paladin with the amount of movement required, making Consecration really awkward to play around.
Consecration
Overall,
just follow
I'm
you.
pretty content with Prop Paladin. It's been kind of enjoyable here and there. It just
should be like a
needs
little
some help
aura
with
buff.
self-sustain and a little bit more holy power generation. Prot Warrior has been a great tank to play for most of the beta cycle. I've really enjoyed how it plays with Mountain Fane hero talent. The whole Thunderclap playstyle of Mountain Fane reminds me of
Mountain Fane's
Prot
good.
Warrior, where
That's what I was
you
saying from
spam
the beginning.
Thunderclap, you have pretty high rage generation, and
Yep.
you're getting your avatars back up. So you're just going through that whole gameplay loop of cycling through all your cooldowns.
You get Avatar and you get shield wall
I've
up
been
in
bothered
like a
too much
minute.
with
Or
Colossus
Avatar is
and
faster, but
Fane,
you get
which is
3-minute
much
shield
better
wall
for
up in like a
Colossus.
minute.
Right now, Warrior feels good in dungeons until you run into encounters that have nasty dot damage or constant magic damage. These
Yep,
dungeons
they get
do
rocked.
have a lot of those rough encounters for Warrior, making it not as reliable in higher keys. I've noticed a couple of areas where Spell Reflect is also very powerful. Warrior's self-sustain is also at an all-time low and will probably heavily rely on the healer to stay alive. Thankfully,
The thing was, when I first played Prot Warrior when the beta just started, they were pretty self-reliant. I think I took down this boss at like 20% health down to dead and was comfortable. But through like the general tank nerfs, they feel a lot weaker in the self-reliant heal category, unfortunately.
in most scenarios, Warrior actually takes quite little damage, making it pretty easy to
Agreed.
get topped. Warrior damage is also a bit on the lower end compared to other tanks, but not by much. Overall, I would say Warrior's been really enjoyable to play. And
Yeah, I don't think their
performs
buffs were
without
enough
range.
today.
It's the tank with the biggest strengths and weaknesses. To summarize everything, I've enjoyed most of the tanks. My favorite in terms of fun has just been depending on how I'm feeling. When I'm feeling something chill, Bear's been the most fun for that.
Yep.
When I want something more engaging, Blood DK and Brewmaster are the two most fun. Demon
Yep.
Hunter and Paladin haven't been as enjoyable for me.
I got laughed at for saying Brew is going to be a top tank. Okay, I got laughed at, and looks like Brew is like under the radar top tank. Like I know like people aren't really playing them right now, but everybody who talks about them or heals them, like Jack has always said that Brew feels really good to heal. He says they feel really good to play. Yoda says they feel really good to play. And I think it's just like there's still a lot more buttons in most tanks, so people are just like, I don't want to play them, or they've always been kind of garbage, so I'm not going to play them. But they are low key a top 3 tank.
Just because they've been playing like their Dragonflight versions, except it's weaker, clunkier, and less resource generation. Warriors are fun to play too, but it does get old, and I really don't like the reliance on healing. If I were to say who the winners are, Bear is probably looking to be the most solid overall for the highest level content.
Okay,
Blood
Bear is
DK
my
probably
second.
Gonna be the best for the medium to high level range, especially in uncoordinated groups. Brew, Paladin, and VDH are the sleeper specs, with the highest potential to be the best, depending on how you and your group plays. I think VDH
Yeah.
in particular might be really strong just because of Chaos Brand and Caster meta. In a Caster comp, VDH with Brand factored in can be doing around 1 million damage overall, which is way more than any other tanks aside from maybe Bear tank with Mark of the Wild. Most of the tanks are doing anywhere from like 600 to 700k overall damage. Warriors, I definitely don't feel great about, but that's not to say it's bad. It's just ever so slightly behind the rest of the tanks. And
They're just
it
kinda
still
in the
feels
same boat
completely
they've always
fine. It's
been.
not great to play. I honestly don't think most of you guys will feel like you're missing out by playing a warrior. As for what I'm playing, I'm probably planning on leveling all the tanks for Warfin. I'll probably pick something based on what I want to raid to as well, since I'm playing DPS and raid. So it'll probably be
True.
like DK or Druid. But I do want to keep up all the tanks if I'm able to. Anyways, if that is it for the video, thank you very much for watching. I'll start pumping out more YouTube content while beta is going through rapid changes. But in the meantime, tune into my Twitch live stream if you guys have any questions.
I feel validated. Like I said, I got laughed at for saying Brew's a sleeper, and very high potential. If they got like a couple different changes, I think they easily get up in there. Bear makes sense. I think Bear overall is the number one. And when I'm rating tanks, I'm not rating them as like what is the top 1% of players doing plus 16 keys gonna play? Because they're gonna play whatever they want to play, and they're gonna do just fine. They have the perfect comp. They have people they talk with daily. They're playing with people they are familiar with, and you cannot gauge it. But as far as like the average player, I think the average player is not going to play DK. I think it's just a little bit overwhelming for them, especially now when they can't really spam Death Strike and find themselves in trouble. And I think Brew's got a little bit too many buttons for people, but Bear is like the perfect balance of simplicity and tankiness that a lot of people are going to naturally gravitate towards. In low keys, it's going to be good. In high keys, it's going to be good. You're not going to need to be this crazy tank player to make sure you're hitting everything at the opportune times. You can literally just mash your 3 buttons and be golden. So I think that's why I think Bear is just like overall across the board going to be good, just because for everybody it's going to be good. It's not just going to be good for the top 1% guys. Cool. All right. So that's Dorkies. Let's see. Who else is a good tank? Yoda? Yoda, I know Yoda, his Demon Hunter was nasty for a while. Should I rebrand? Embarrassing myself as a mage in High Mythic Plus featuring Dorky Resto Druid. Dorky's playing Resto? Oh, let's see. See what Yoda's got. Oh, Yoda's not gonna come up with WoW stuff. Wow. Actually, one of the top videos was it. All right, let's see what Yoda's playing. I mean, I don't really want to watch him just run a dungeon. My preliminary tier list for most specs. Let's see what he's got for a tier list going. Servers up. Nope, servers are still down. So we're just gonna do some reaction stuff.
Hey guys, this is Yoda. This will be my preliminary tier list for War Within Mythic Plus.
When was this? 2 days ago.
In a pre-patch, so Mythic Plus is coming out in 1 to 2-ish months, but we've done a lot of testing on the
Everybody said Brew can't be a top 3.
Is strong, what is fun.
Pally in strong is kind of shocking.
Blah, 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 so
I would feel like they would just be in mid. Like they're a good damage. They have some good strong points, but I feel like they're still a mid tank.
Invoker and Mage for whatever seasons in a row are most likely going to meta again.
Okay, hold on. I want to see. Is he gonna go through this?
Is like single targets. Basically, you're just walking into packs, getting trucked.
I don't know. I want to see something a little bit more interactive. Who else we got? Who's a good tank? Actually, you know what? Since we have a minute where we are, new devout. Okay, we got dungeon tuning. We got dungeon tuning. Okay, are we about to survive? Here we go. 32 minutes ago. New Devour affix. Okay, let's see what we got. Thank you for all your feedback on our new Mythic Plus affix system. First of all, I'm going to say right now, the orbs that are coming in are absolute garbage. Continuing the theme of Xalatath's Bargain, where players can harness powerful boons granted to the dungeon enemies by the Harbinger, we're adding a new affix to our beta testing this week, Devour. While in combat, Xalatath tears open rifts that devour the essence of players. The rift unleashes its energy after 15 seconds, healing all enemies in combat. The rift collapses if it is dispelled or players receive enough healing, granting all players critical strike chance and maximum health. That's a dub for Brew. More health for Brew is good, and you kind of just run verse crit, so that's actually really nice. So players receive enough healing. I wonder if it puts a heal absorb or if it's just like a number that you have to hit. If it's dispelled, that's probably fine too. I think most people can dispel that pretty quickly. Dungeon adjustments. Okay, here we go. This is what they should have did before they nerfed the hell out of tanks. Rive's physical damage vulnerability reduced from 20% to 10%. Physical damage vulnerability, so he takes more or less damage. Okay. Unless that's like, yeah, that would be less damage. Rive's damage reduced. General Umbrus. Skull Splitter damage reduced. Skull Splitter can now be blocked. Huge for warriors. And I guess Prop Alley. Draga Shadowburner increased the recast time of Invocation of Shadow Flame. That's huge. That shit sucked when it would just like double cast. Uridax crushes physical and shadow damage reduced. Beautiful. Depleted Anima Seeds no longer have an interact condition. So you thank God that you can just use the seeds now without having to be a fucking Tauren. So that looks like we have our spawn points in the dungeon. That's huge. Okay. Drust Harvester, Spirit Bolt damage reduced, beautiful. Misveil Defender, Miss Ward recast time increase, beautiful. Ingram Malik, Force Compliance recast increased. Repulsive Visage recast increased. So I'm guessing that means increased time. It just says recast, but I'm assuming it's like everything else. Tredova, Coalescing Poison range reduced. Okay, so how far you got to get out of that circle? That's big. I really like, because that was really bad because you would get stuck with Mind Link in that, and you'd be slowed right next to somebody, so you'd just be taking so much Mind Link damage. So that being reduced is going to let you get out of that and get away from that Mind Link a hell of a lot easier. All right, Arakara, City of Echoes. The last boss at Arakara was kind of deadly. So let's see. Avanox. Avanox will now reset if she is pulled off her platform. I did see some people tanking her literally around the entire like the 3 different platforms and just running away from her mobs, which kind of nullifies the whole mechanic of it. So it makes sense they did that. Voracious Bite damage vulnerability reduced from 100% to 50%, massive. We used to take so much damage from the Voracious Bite after the first one. It can now be blocked. Massive W for warriors and pallies. Probably more so for warriors because all they're blocking most of that damage now. Increase the recast time of alerting shill. Great. Adjust the spawning locations of starved crawlers to be more consistent. Beautiful. So now that they won't be so random. A Noob Zaket. Bloodstained web mages no longer spawn during Eye of the Storm. That's huge. Blood DK. What did they get? They got a little bit of a buff, like a slight damage buff, but all the tanks got a buff. So now we're going through some dungeon changes that just came out. But a Noob Zaket, the web mages used to spawn in Eye of the Storm, and you could not get to them to interrupt because if you ran into the storm, you just died. So the fact that they don't spawn in it is a huge W for melee comps. I used to have to Transcendence on Brew, roll out into the abyss, kick it, teleport back, and hope I didn't die in the window. So that's a huge dub. City of Threads, Fang of the Queens, pacing of abilities reduced. That's good. Sometimes you were just chasing for like 30 seconds and it was a pain in the ass. Remove Dark Paranoia and Shadow Sunpore from the encounter. Nice. Edna, Seismic Smash damage reduced. Beautiful. That thing, I got killed on Bear the other day and it did 12 million damage to me. And so that's massive. Did 12 million damage to me, and I think I had Iron Fur and Bark Skin up or something. Crystalline Smash can now be blocked. Okay. So Warriors and Prop Pallies getting some love here. Master Machinist, Flaming Scraps durations reduced. Igneous Hammer damage reduced. Great. Blazing Crescendo now is a precast visual on the Lava Waves directions. Good, because those things just come out of fucking nowhere. They always went the same way, but they were just like, just blast right out. Overall, these are really good dungeon changes. It's just kind of a flat damage reduction to most of the dungeons, which is going to be great for tanks that are taking more damage now. This is what they needed to do. Even the stuff that's like recast time is increased. That's huge because you have like that little window in between cast, which I'm guessing means if you stun them or you interrupt them in some way, they're not just going to recast again. There's going to be a duration in between it. So that's solid. Arakara changes. I'm very surprised we didn't see any changes to the last boss. They did take away, what's it called? It's the AoE poison dot that just goes out. They took that away in earlier builds. So that's huge. Let's see. I really like the Edna changes. That was a pub killer on the first boss 30 seconds in. Good change. The Crystalline Smash wasn't a huge deal, but I like that more abilities are being able to be blocked. That's going to help Pallies out. It's going to help Warriors out. They're not going to be so viciously attacked by tank busters when like half of your thing when you have a shield is using your shield. And if your tank buster is not, your shield can't do anything to tank busters, it's kind of useless. I think they should have put, for Master Machinist, I think they should have put a shared health pool here. I think a lot of their issues would be solved if they had a shared health pool. So that's a change I would like to see in the future. But I do like the hammer reduction, the scrap reduction. Like all these tank busters are getting reduced, which is pretty massive. Yeah, Twilight Overseer, Rives damage reduced. It's like I said, it's just like a flat damage reduction to a lot of things in the dungeon. So overall, good changes. Good changes. I was worried we were gonna see some bunk ones, but I think everything here looks good. I'm really excited about the coalescing poison being reduced, because coalescing poison or coalesce poison, like I said, would just be poorly timed a lot. I would like to see that interaction with Mind Link not be so close, but for right now, we'll take that. At least you can get out of it a little bit easier. You can get away from the Mind Link. You can do all these things that you couldn't before. Even with the orb affix, so that pulls the orbs in, it was super counterintuitive to play, because you had to get out of her poison, you had to split from Mind Link, but you also needed to get these orbs before they got to her, so she didn't get 100% damage reduction. So having a smaller area to get out of, where you can actually move and break Mind Link a little quicker, and then also get back closer to get orbs that are coming in, is going to be really, really good. Let's see. I do like, so far without playing it, I think the Rift is a good affix. If it's based on just players receiving health, that's good, because healers are just healing. So as long as it's not like a insane amount that you need to like blast cooldowns to get through, you know, if you can just naturally heal and you got 15 seconds to do so, then I think that's good. And depending on how much it heals too, if it heals all enemies in combat, does it max their health out, or does it give them a hot, or does it give them what? So that's something that is going to be something we'll have to feel out. But we've made some updates in the beta this week. Also includes the pass on tank damage intake. Yeah, that's W. They should have did this first. But Voracious Bite's a good change. Everything's good. I'm a little bit more excited to go in it. I think it's going to be a lot less punishing for pugs to go into stuff, because a lot of times, like, anytime I go into a pug group, I mean, all I do is pug. I don't have any of my buddies playing the beta right now, so all I do is pug. And sometimes people just aren't prepared for the amount of damage that comes out. If you've been playing the beta for a little bit, you got some familiarity with it. But if you're new and you go into Mist, which is like a 10-year-old dungeon that you've done 100 times, and Spirit Bolt just fucking 50% somebody, you're like, what the hell? And so it doesn't say how much it was reduced. I'm hoping it's a hefty chunk, because I've tanked for most of the beta, but the one time I think I played like mage or somebody really, really squishy and got hit with a Spirit Bolt, I was like, what the fuck was that? Did I just get meleeed? Like, it was so much damage from just like a random target cast. And with the whole, like, if you stun, they just cast right again right afterwards. They need to be reduced even more, I think. But I say more, but we don't know how much it's reduced. So this is actually these are good changes. W Blizz. I would like to see the Oblivion affix get reworked. I don't really like how it functions. It's also weird when those orbs come in and you move to get them, and sometimes they move too, like they kind of move away from you, or they don't blow up as soon as they get to you. So I want to see that get reworked. But I think that this one, if it is, like I said, if it's spelled or players receive enough healing, I think if it's like, okay, you just got to heal your group a bunch, then you're just going to continue healing your group. You don't even really need to change your pull. You actually probably prefer to pull when this is coming up, as opposed to the other ones that you would kind of just, you could pull into it, but you could also just nuke something, like nuke like the Void Emissary quick. Whereas this, if it starts casting, you're going to want to get into that pull if you're not planning to dispel it. If you're just going to want to get into a pull, blast healing, and get it taken care of quick. So I like that. It's encouraging pulling with the affix as opposed to being completely stopped by it. And again, it depends how much healing. It seems like it depends on how much healing you have to do, but if it's not like substantial, I think it's going to be good. I'm wandering around the whole stream. No one wants to work with me. Seems like a nice guy. I appreciate that, but like I said, I'm not looking for anything right now. I don't have the time. I don't really want to, I'm not looking to pay anybody for anything, but like I said, maybe in the future. I kind of like doing my own thing right now and handling my own stuff, but Like I said, that could change. I'm super busy right now, so it's kind of just me. So, but cool. I'm looking forward to these changes going live. I wanted to talk about the other changes. Beta notes updated. Mythic Plus loot change reverted. You can get me 100 followers to 200 followers. Maybe will work. How's that? The following line was removed. Heroic track loot from Mythic Plus now drops at a maximum of 1 out of 6, was 2 out of 6. Okay. So this was removed. So that's huge. Okay, so it goes back to 2. I think that's good. I mean, I wasn't too lost on it being 1. I feel like, well, I don't want you to bot me, Valentina. But yeah, hero track loot from Mythic Plus. I think it wasn't too big of a deal, especially in the beginning, because you're going to be getting all your crests. Granted, you need a ton of crests now, but it is going to be nice that it can go up to, it can start at 2. Elemental lightning bolt damage increased by 3%, was reduced. I think that was a typo in the Wowhead release, not necessarily the Blizz post. Okay. I thought there'd be more. I thought there would be more for it, but I'm okay with just these mythic changes. Now I want to get into it and start running some dungeons. I think more people will be excited to run them. All right, I'm also excited to try out some of these new changes. This is the blood DK stuff. Frenzy Bloodthirst just increases damage of your death strike by 4% per stack, was 3%. So that's the change to Sand Lane. And then blood, all damage increased by 10%. Bone Storm consumes up to 5 bone shield charges, was 10, and it now lasts 2 seconds per charge consumed. So you don't lose any time on Bone Storm, and you consume less charges. The downside to that is that the CDR from Bone Storm was insane on Dancing Rune Weapon, and it's probably going to be, it'll be half of it. So you won't get such a huge chunk of it taken off, but still, I think overall a good charge for just DK in general. Good change. Big yawn. Vengeance, it's got a nice damage buff. Let's go through some of the other stuff. Who am I interested in playing? I was playing Marksman for a little bit. Black Arrow damage increased by 100%. Withering Fire, nice, solid changes. Let's see. I'm surprised Mage didn't get a whole. Oh, there it is. Never mind. Usually they get so much written. Let's see what Arcane, because Arcane's kind of been blasting. Savant's Arcane damage bonus increased by 100%. Savant's Arcane Blast damage bonus increased by 50%. Arcane Barrage damage reduced by 8. Arcane Blast reduced by 6. Arcane Familiar damage increased by 50%, so it feels like it's a little bit more single target oriented. Oh, God. Sorry for the yawning. Magi Spark now has a 2-second grace period after the initial Arcane Missile proc, where the caster will continue to echo Arcane Missile damage. Okay, that's pretty good. Fixed a bunch of issues. Yeah. Let's look at the Windwalker ones, because Windwalker was something that I wanted to do. I wanted to play. Touch of the Tiger now increases the damage of Tiger Palm by 40%, was 25. That's a nice little single target jump. Hardened Soul now increases the critical strike chance of Blackout Kick by 10%, was 5. Nice. Yeah, it's actually not bad. Rushing Jade Wind's damage has been increased by 30%. Again, not bad. It's a nice solid buffs. We got kind of a lot of buffs, which is cool. Communion with the Wind now increases the damage of Strike of the Windlord by 100%, was 80. Oh, so sorry, guys. Sorry. Whew. Master of the Monastery now increases Tiger Palm's chance to activate Blackout Kick by 25%, was 10%. That's actually really nice. Get some extra free Blackout Kicks, which works well. I think, does Windwalker have Blackout combo? I can't remember. Dawn's, I'm gonna butcher it. Bond now increases Swen's damage by 30%, was 15%. Nice double. That's huge. Brawler's intensity now increases blackout kick's damage by 12%, was 15, so a little nerf to blackout kick. Okay. So it looks like you're going to be able to cast blackout kick a lot more. But you're just going to do a little bit less damage with it. Crane Vortex now increases the damage of spinning crane kick by 30%, was 20%. Nice. Nice little AoE jump. Meridian Strikes now reduces the cooldown of Touch of Death by 0.6 seconds, was 0.35 seconds when Combo Strikes is activated. Nice. Touch of Death is just kind of a broken ability. Darting Hurricane proc rate has been increased. Martial Mixture now increases the damage of Tiger Palm by 8% per stack, was 10%, but can stack up to 30 times. So you lose 2%. So what was it? 120%. Now it's at 80, 60, 240%. That seems hefty. Chi Burst's activation effect can now stack up to 2 times, and its duration has been increased. 30 seconds was 20 seconds. That's good, so you don't feel so rushed to use it. Chi Burst damage decreased by 20%. Chi Waves damage has been increased. I wish that was for Bro too, but it's just for Windwalker. Bro would be nice to have that, because then you could run Chi Wave and you just get a one less button. Somebody scream at me, Jesus. Rising Star now increases Rising Sun's kick damage by 15%, was 10. Again, just a kind of a single target buff. The duration of Fury of Zen's stacking buff has been increased to 30 seconds, was 20. Nice. Whirling Dragon Punch now has a slight grace period where it will remain usable when Rising Sun Kick or Fist of Fury complete their cooldowns. That's a huge W. When I was playing Windwalker, like a handful of times, that sucked to be like hitting the button as like one GCD is finishing and being like being like Whirling Dragon Punch, whirling, and then cooldowns hit, and you just kind of ruins your flow. So that's a nice little window to keep everything not so clunky. Fix some issues. Let's see. Holy's got a ton of changes. We're not healers here. I do actually like Disc. I do like this. All damage increased by 5%. Holy Nova increased by 23%. Power Word Shield absorption increased by 30%. That's actually a hefty buff to Power Word Shield. Radius cooldown reduced to 18, was 20. That's huge. Bright Pupil now reduces the cooldown of Power Word Radiance by 3 seconds, was 5. Abyssal Revere now increases Atonement Healing from Shadow Spells by 5 to 10, was 10 to 20. Okay, so that's a little bit of a nerf, and they got a couple extra points, so that's a W for Discipline. Now I think I went through the rogue ones earlier, but Outlaw getting Ace Up Your Sleeve to grant 5 combo points instead of 4 is absolutely massive. That's gonna make the spec flow so much better. Because right now we're already not taking our capstone talent, so having that kind of help us create a rhythm is going to be good. It's also going to help burn through cooldowns. It's going to work, like being able to ace up your sleeve back to back without having to put a builder in between it is going to make your Vanish come off cooldown quicker, your Adrenaline Rush come off cooldown quicker, your Roll the Bones come off cooldown quicker. Everything's going to come off cooldown quicker, because you're not going to hit that Ace Up Your Sleeve proc that gives you 4, and you just don't happen to have, an extra combo point. And in most cases, we're probably going to have this bring you to 6 combo points, so that's going to be really nice too. So if we can get that up to, so you kind of generally be getting 6 combo points from Ace Up Your Sleeve. Combat potency increasing energy regeneration by 30% is going to be nice. It's going to, that downtime that outlaw has is really bad. So having some extra energy in there, really great. Hey, Amanda. Oh, Almanda. Sorry. Let's see. Let's look at the elemental changes. They got rocked, huh? Lightning bolt damage increased by 3%. Lava burst damage reduced by 25%. That's big. Elemental blast damage reduced by 25%. Earthquake damage reduced by 15%. Flame shock damage reduced by 15%. Thunder strike ward damage increased by 150%. Splintered elemental now grants 10% haste, was 20. Ugh. Earth shock damage increased by 25%. Okay, maybe earth shock becomes a little stronger. The Ice Fury damage increased by 85%. That's nice. Nice little free single target damage. Earth and Rage damage increased by 60%. Valentina, no thanks. Additionally, Lava Burst from Primordial Wave now deals 50% of normal damage, was 80. Okay. So that's a little bit of a nerf. That would proc on everything. That's a sizable AoE nerf. Resolved an issue causing lava surge chance to trigger, blah, blah, blah. We're going to skip the resolved issues. Okay. Not as bad as I thought it was. All the resolved issues tend to kind of fill up this, but this is just the main section right here. And it looks like enhancement got some work too. Arc discharge damage bonus decreased to 40%, was 75. Ooh, okay, maybe not. Nature's Fury now properly modifies critical chance of Tempest. Cool. Awakening Storms is now properly modified by Storm Callers and Nature's Fury. Maelstrom spending required to activate Tempest decreased to 300, so you get Tempest a little bit more. Tempest damage reduced by 21% for enhancement. Ascendance initial damage is now properly modified. Tempest Strikes is now properly modified. So it looks like, I thought enhancement would kind of be brought up, but it looks like it's getting just nerfed too, which is kind of tough. Tough for them. I do still like Elemental Shaman. I'll still probably play it and try it out, but I don't know. It's feeling a lot weaker now. Rogue feels better and better every week. That's what I'm hoping to play, but I'm hoping they make a few more changes. I'll probably still try it, and I'll probably still play it pretty regularly, but I would like to see some changes. All right, are these servers back up yet? No, still not up yet. What else can we go through? Are we getting any more changes popping up? No. Okay, so it looks like we got overall for the changes today, we got tank damage increased, tank damage taken decreased. We got some rogue buffs, so that's good for my DPS alt. I think overall it's been a good day for tanks. We may have gotten a little bit hurt last week. Looks like we're clawing our way back. I would have liked to see in Mist, I would have liked to see the anima slash that does like 500k a second and can stack, so you can get to like 1 million a second. I would have liked to see that get changed a little bit. But I think that most of these are good changes. We're still going to get hit pretty hard going into packs because a lot of the physical stuff is still there. I don't know if that could be a undocumented change, but we'll see how it goes. I think Spirit Bolt damage is huge being reduced because that's the stuff that just kills like random players. So that being reduced is going to make it so if you miss a kick, it's not so detrimental, and your mage isn't going to get one shot. So yeah, feeling good about going into it. Now we just need to be able to go into it because right now it's still down. All right, let's bring up let's see. I wonder if they have people gotta be already posting videos about these changes. Let's see. Try to see if there's a video that we can watch while we're doing some downtime. We got the tank buffs yesterday. Let's see. Who's a good oh, you know what? Quasi, not necessarily like I don't think he's only a tank, but Quasi's got great videos. Quasi Unplugged. If you're looking for some good Mythic Plus content, he's always got good routes, good player profiles, all those things. So if you're looking for that, he's a good option. Tactics is a good tank guy. Let's see if Tactics has got any recent videos. He's just going back over it. Well, damn. I was really hoping to get in some big old keys. But it looks like we're back in the boat of waiting for the beta build to come back up, and I don't know Should we stop streaming and bring it back up when the beta build goes live, or what do you guys want to do? You want to just sit and chat? I'm gonna plug my YouTube channel in here, boys and girls. You guys want to see some content? Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. Yeah. Let's see. I'm gonna be a certified yapper to get through this. I don't really have any desire to play retail. What? All right, you know what? Let's do this. Speaking of retail, let's do this, because I've seen a lot of people talking about they don't know what the hell is going on going into the War Within. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna watch a video explaining the lore for the War Within, because I personally haven't followed it. The cinematics don't really seem to do anything. But I want to find something that is recent, because I know they just released a recent one. So let's go this week. These are all ranked. Robert Downey Jr. playing Doom. How do we feel about that? I feel like that's a strange pick. I get that Doom was also, or Iron Man was also Doom, but they kind of made a point to say that's not what it is. War Within. Okay, let's go. Who's this? Spellular? Platinum? All right, let's do Platinum. Wow.
Soon, and it's the beginning of a trilogy of expansions called the World Soul Saga. If I could put each of the recent World of Warcraft expansion stories on a graph, it would look something like this. But Warcraft's original creative director, Chris Metzen, is coming back, and the story of the War Within has the potential to look something like this.
We're so back.
There's a whole lot of history in the Warcraft universe that you have to have an understanding
Platinum WoW's always
in
got great
order for this
videos.
Expansion and the entire World Soul Saga to make any sense. So let's not waste any time and jump right into it. First, let's start with the obvious one. What the fuck is a World Soul? Think of the world of Azeroth as a giant egg, and inside of that egg is a World Soul. This World Soul contains a Titan.
Like Easter.
Titans are gods of order, and it is said that if the Azeroth Titan is ever born, she could be the most powerful Titan to ever exist. Because of this,
we got a bun in the
forces
oven.
have tried to destroy or corrupt Azeroth and its World Soul. At the end of the Legion expansion, Sargeras, a corrupted Titan and leader of the Burning Legion, stabs Azeroth with his giant sword in a desperate...
So he was trying to kill the baby. He was trying to kill Azeroth's baby Titan.
Attempt to destroy the world before he's imprisoned. Sargeras fails to kill Azeroth, but he did leave his giant sword in the planet and gravely injured
Where
her.
is that? Is the sword?
The
Can you
reason
go
why
to it?
Sargeras wanted to destroy Azeroth was because if the powers of the Void corrupted the world, it would doom the entire universe.
Okay.
But since he didn't actually destroy Azeroth, just injured it, it meant that he actually just made the Void's mission of corrupting Azeroth easier. And in the next expansion, N'Zoth, the old god of the Void, tries to corrupt the world, fails, and Azeroth is healed in the end, and we win, yippee. But there's still a giant sword in Azeroth, and that giant sword would kind of just be ignored for the next 2 expansions. That is until now in the War Within.
Yeah, can you go see this? Is this in the game? Because that'd be sick.
Is in danger once again, but this time it's far more subtle and mysterious. You see, in Battle for Azeroth, Magni Bronzebeard was the...
I liked Battle for Azeroth. I'll say it with my chest. I liked Battle for Azeroth. Outlaw Rogues were so good in Season 2, and that was prime Outlaw Rogue. So I liked Battle of Azeroth.
World Speaker, and Azeroth only communicated with him. But as of late, Azeroth has totally ghosted him, leaving him a solid diamond dwarf that's just kind of depressed.
I think we can all
what
feel
we
that.
assume is Azeroth has started reaching out to various different characters in something described as the Radiant Song. This is a powerful, overwhelming vision that ramps up in intensity and is demanding characters to travel deep within the earth to investigate its origin.
This was a sick cinematic, even though it was kind of like didn't give too much, but just like the end, like it looked great.
Let's quickly cover the backstories of each of the characters that are hearing the Radiant Song.
Okay.
First, we have Khadgar, who's an old archmage who's been a part of Warcraft's story ever since Warcraft 2. He's played a part in numerous fundamental events in the universe's history, like destroying the Dark Portal.
Look at that! Look at those graphics.
Mages of Dalaran, traveled to alternate Draenor, played a fundamental role in the Legion's most recent invasion. Point is, he's experienced, and his age has started to show as of late.
Poor guy, man. He's been just dealing with shit his entire life.
As the Radiant Song is called out to him, he described it as the feeling of being filled with light and benevolence. And another member of the Kirin Tor, Archmage Madera, described it as feeling like coming home.
Okay. So it's a good thing.
Jaina and Thrall have heard the Radiant Song too. If you don't know who these characters are,
Where's that ship?
I don't know, how did you even find this video? But really, both of these characters have history that's just far too expansive to cover here.
They have done
And
great
honestly,
cinematics.
I don't really expect their personal stories to progress in this expansion, and more serve as familiar faces.
Bring
to
back
tell the
Thrall.
player character what to do.
He was sick.
But if you don't know who they are, Jaina's like a badass Elsa, and
That's-
Thrall is like a.
I was just about to say that. Okay, so the entire premise of Battle for Azeroth is the movie Frozen. The entire premise is a girl who has powers to turn things to ice. Her family sends her, or she leaves because she failed in battle. She doesn't want to come back. She's scared. She comes back. She kind of goes bad. You got to fight her. She turns everything to ice. It's Frozen.
Jaina's like a badass Elsa, and Thrall is like a self-insert for Chris Metzen, okay?
That's funny.
Anduin Wrynn is another character that has heard the Radiant
Yeah,
Song.
it's 100% Frozen.
He's kind of sort of the main character of WoW.
It's like how the Lion King is Romeo and Juliet, I think it is. Yeah, the Lion King's basically a cartoon version of Romeo and Juliet. Not Romeo and Juliet. It's a Shakespeare play. Maybe it is. I mean, I could be thinking of something different, but yeah, Lion King's just a Shakespeare play for kids.
WoW, with the amount of model updates this guy's gotten all throughout the game's history, and Anduin's story has continually been built up since Classic WoW. He is the High King of the Alliance, and the last time we saw Anduin was in the Shadowlands expansion, where he was forcibly
He had to go
dominated
bad.
by
He
the
had to go
villain
bad.
of the expansion. Then he was given his dead dad's sword, which was corrupted by a soul fragment of the Lich King, and then he was commanded to kill a deity of the Shadowlands, and this whole time he was cognizant of his actions and was forced to watch himself do these awful things.
Guys
At the
had
end
to
of the
run.
expansion, his two ghost dads grab his shoulder and he fights back the domination magic.
His
and
two
regains
ghost
his free
dads.
Will. So pretty much after the Shadowlands, Anduin went into hiding to deal with his trauma. There's a time skip between Shadowlands and Dragonflight, which is about 5 years. And now
Okay.
Anduin is coming back into the story, still dealing with some trauma, and is one of the characters hearing the Radiant Song.
I'd have trauma too. I would have had trauma back in probably Kata
Last,
if I
we
was
have
him.
Illyria, who has not heard the Radiant Song, but instead the dark whispers of the void, beckoning her to go down an insidious path.
Hey, Tempo.
Illyria is one of the 3 Windrunner sisters, and has been a character since Warcraft 2, but really only re-entered the story in the Legion expansion. During that time, she was a part of the Army of Light with her husband, Trallian, and they've spent thousands of years in space killing demons. So when you kill demons in the mortal plane,
The power
they
couple.
don't really die. They just get sent back to the twisting nether dimension. But Illyria has discovered that if you kill them with the powers of the void, they permanently die. In order to learn how to wield the powers of the void for good, she finds an ethereal named Locust Walker, who is a master of the void, and she learns how to use the power under his tutelage and consumes the power of a corrupted Naru. Illyria mentions this radiant song phenomenon to Locust Walker, and that's when we uncover the key point to the mystery of this expansion. You see, Locust Walker is an ethereal, an arcane being wrapped together with magical bandages. But he wasn't always like this. The ethereals used to live on their homeworld of Koresh, before it was consumed by a void being called Dementius, the All-Devouring, and the ethereals were transformed into what they are today. But here's the important piece of information. Before their world was destroyed, the ethereals heard something, just like the radiant song. And once they realized what it was far too late, and their world was already doomed. The main antagonist of this expansion is Xal'atath. She's a void entity older than Azeroth herself, and was first introduced to characters in the Legion expansion, where she was bound in the Blade of the Black Empire, which was a weapon used by Shadow Priests. Throughout numerous critical moments in Azeroth's history, Xal'atath has manifested into our world, corrupting certain individuals to fall to the void. I've already made a video covering Xal'atath's extensive history, you can check it out right here. But in Battle for Azeroth, players free Xal'atath from her blade, and she possesses a dead Void Elf cultist body. So,
sorry, my wife
Xal'atath that you
calls.
see
I missed a
all
little bit
of
about
this promotional
Xal'atath
art
here.
and everything. Yeah, no, that isn't really her true form. It's just a random dead elf that we found laying in the dirt. In
What a way to come
Dragonflight,
back.
The main antagonists were the Primal Incarnates, who are elemental dragons who rejected the work of the Titans. We
Okay.
killed one of them, another became an ally, and the last one is Iridikron, who created something called the Dark Heart. This is a powerful relic that can absorb magical power and convert it into void energy. Now, in the War Within, Iridikron has allied himself with Xal'atath.
That's a
has
bad
given
guy.
her this Dark Heart artifact. Now, this wicked void entity is setting the stage to corrupt all of Azeroth, start a new dark legacy, manipulate and corrupt Illyria, and empower a void-touched army of spider people to do her bidding. And yeah, that's pretty much everything you really need to know about Xal'atath. There's not that much more. Okay.
Platinum.
I saw this on
For
Tim the
such an
Tatman stream.
accomplished historian, you fail to grasp that your studies are meaningless against the void. But no matter. You and all you know shall be mine.
Okay, maybe there's a little bit more to Xal'atath that we don't know about yet. Let's just let's continue on with the video, okay? In order to stop Xal'atath, we must venture to Kazilgar and explore the 4 new zones and the races that.
When I first got into the beta, I didn't realize there was a specific realm to be level 80 and have all the gear, so I leveled to 75. And Isle of Dorne's pretty cool. I kind of like the leveling area, and it seemed fairly quick.
Live there, starting with the Earthen on the Isle of Dorne, who are
Earthen looked
currently
cool.
undergoing a cultural and spiritual crisis, including endless infighting between each other and the inability to make new Earthen.
I like that
Also,
their
you get
little
to explore the new
diamonds show through their
capital city of the
armor.
expansion, Dorne Ogal, which has a surprising amount of hot tubs. I don't know why. Then you can delve into the ringing deeps and marvel at the Earthen's industrial creations, and explore Hallowfall, and meet the light-worshipping Arathi humans and the massive crystal which looms above their zone. And
Okay.
finally, scour the kingdom of Aj-Kahet and work with uncorrupted Nerubians against the members of their race
Those
who
are cool.
accepted Xal'atath's twisted void enhancements with the promise of restoring their kingdom to its former glory. I'll be making far more extensive videos about all of these races and
Okay.
zones, so don't forget to subscribe. But
I
if you
like
wanna
the
learn some
Earthen.
foundational lore.
I like that the Earthen shows their armor through what is it called? Through their gear. I think it's always pretty sweet. What else we got? Final boss, Mean Dagger. Yeah, essentially. Are we live? Let's see. Not yet. Not yet. Spoiler free. Do we want spoiler free? 20 minutes of lore? That was 8 months ago. There's probably so much new stuff that's come out since then. Actually, there was one day I was doing something and I was just like, I'm gonna be here for a couple hours, and I watched every WoW cinematic in chronological order, and it was actually pretty sweet. Highly recommend it if you got a lot of time. It's I forgot how long the video was. Yeah, it's like 3 hours up in order, up to War Within. Okay, so this is actually fairly recent. 3 hours of cinematics. It's kind of cool because you don't get all the information that you would get from playing. You just get it from the cinematics. So some of the stuff is just kind of like hard changes from expansion to expansion. World of Warcraft complete movies, 5 hours. All cinematics in order. That's a hefty one. So let's see. What is War Within? That cinematic that he pulled up that had her kind of flashing in, I saw that on Tim the Tatman's stream the other day, or maybe not the other day. I saw a TikTok of it, and it just kind of plays over his stream, and then he just logged off. So it's kind of cool. It's a little bit of promotion. Is this the one we've already seen that came out forever ago? No, 4 days ago. This is why is this fading 4 days ago? This came out a while, didn't it? Yeah, it looks like it. Recap of BFA. Ah, man. I know there's like really not that much to go off of for the War Within. Is anybody doing pre-patch stuff? I haven't touched retail since beta came out. I've just been playing beta. The best range specs to main. That's gonna change. It came out yesterday and all that stuff came out today. Best and worst specs. Tier lists, you should just play what you want to play. I make tank tier lists, and most of them are opinion based, how they feel to play, how I personally like them. But if you're like, what should I play, and you're playing based off a tier list, it's far too early for a tier list to be accurate. Because it's kind of just like guesswork. Everything could change tomorrow. I think Heroic Week is going to be final numbers tuning, and then from there I think you could probably go off some tier lists. But tier lists again are purely like mostly damage oriented. If you're a DPS, or like, you know, what's the best of the best, and not necessarily what's the most enjoyable to play. So you should just play what you enjoy. Most stuff isn't going to be so bad that you can't do anything. And if you're one of the 1%ers, you're not watching tier lists to pick anyways. You're playing whatever you want or whatever you feel like you need. So that's my little 2 cents. That's why I don't put out a insane amount of tier lists. I put out a couple of them just based off feel. But in most cases, just play whatever you want. It's a game. If you're not having fun, it's not worth it. All right. Let's see. Is BM dead? Is Arcane over? Probably not. Did anyone play Classic? Did anyone play Hardcore WoW? I played Hardcore for a long time, and I actually genuinely enjoyed it. It was like playing a different game, because you couldn't just YOLO into caves and shit like that. You actually had to play very differently. Yeah, to an extent. Like if you were to look at like Warcraft logs and see who is objectively doing the most damage, and created your tier list around that, or around like who's the best, and like there is like an objective best, but right now there's so many changes that are happening every week that everyone's objective best is on the chopping block every single week to become not the objective best. Whereas we won't have that many changes once it's live. And once we have, I think, like I said, Heroic Week is going to be the last round of like, or last round of big changes we'll see. We probably get some little like adjustments here and there. But right now, if we're getting a new build every week, and things are getting nerfed and buffed and nerfed and buffed, and dungeons are changing and new affixes are coming out, it's very hard to say that these are what you should play. You know, it's hard to be like, this is going to be good. Like for honestly, AUG was one of those things that was like, okay, this is 100% going to be in every dungeon because they're just so insane. It's as insane as they were last season. And then with the class tuning we just got, they got nerfed a ton. Like it's only 2 changes, but closest clutch mates is like that is what made them stronger in dungeons, like that 10-20% increase, whatever it may be. That's gone. Ebb and Might getting reduced is a hard nerf because that's something that's just going to be like, you're going to feel that. What they have going for them right now is their defensive stuff, how good of a defensive utility they have. But if they keep doing dungeon changes like this and reducing the damage output and kind of making it so that is less valuable, it'll always be valuable in infinite scaling dungeons. But as that kind of changes, like augmentation on the low end is probably not something you take. It's probably more for the high end groups that are playing very coordinated. So things like that, like that's a kind of out of nowhere. I didn't expect augment to get that kind of change. And then you look at like, let's see, what else got it? Balance, all spell damage increased by 6, force of nature melee damage increased by 60%, wild mushroom damage increased by 20%, umbral inspiration damage bonus increased 35%. Like all these number changes is helping balance out. And if you had to pick, okay, what do we need for Mark of the Wild? Do we want to take a guardian? Do we want to take a feral? Do we want to take a balance to raid? You might take balance instead of feral or guardian now. So there's things like that. That's like, if you want a guaranteed raid spot, it's going to be touch and go until you're in a position to take raids. I do mostly Mythic Plus, mainly because I'll raid, like I raid every week, but it's only what, 2 days, a couple hours a day. But I'll do Mythic Plus the entire time. So that's kind of what I focus a lot of my tier list or my recommendations for what feels good. Like Blood's always a good raid tank. It doesn't really matter if they're horrible in Mythic Plus, they're always good in raid because of their self-sustainability. They got good they got good cooldowns. You're probably not taking Unholy for like the grips and stuff like that. You would just take a blood tank. There's a lot of things that vary, and because we're getting changes so frequently, it's just like hard to keep up. Like with the recent tank buffs to damage, there's no reason to put a tier list out. It's everybody got buffed about the same. It's still gonna feel about the same. These are a lot of DPS changes, so we'll probably see a bunch of DPS tier lists come out tomorrow. What's good? What's bad? What changed? And so we're gonna see, are mages dead? Is Havoc the new meta because they got eye beam damage increase? Like we'll see all that stuff. But next week they could say, eye beam's a little strong. Let's put it back down. And you know, so it is what it is. And I no hate to the people making them, because that's, if you're a content creator, that's part of your job. That's what you do. So it's also informing people of changes. So there is a positive aspect to it. But I like doing this where I go through the changes. I read what's changed, what's gotten better, what's gotten worse, how it's going to affect, like this, for example, Bone Storm consumes 5 bone shield charges, was 10. So now when you go in and you rip Bone Storm, you're not getting completely obliterated while you get your charges back up, because you're still going to have 5. It does reduce the cooldown reduction of Dancing Rune Weapon, but you're trading off, you know, a little bit of survivability here for a little less survivability with having Rune Weapon up every time. So there's some trade-offs that are pretty good. But like Brewmaster just got a 15% increase to damage. You know, that's just, you probably won't feel it. Honestly, you might think you do, but you probably won't. It feels like it's a lot, but next to all the other tanks also getting damage buffs, you probably won't feel it. I'm happy because if tanks are getting buffed, it's going to help threat more so than it's going to help their actual damage. I think bears suffer from that more than the other tanks, because unless you're running a raise build, you're kind of just moonfiring. And so having moonfiring and swiping and mangling and stuff like that, not swipe, thrash. So if the damage increases there, you increase threat. It makes it easier to group up. It makes it easier to gather packs, things like that. That's the transfer over I see in the damage increases. Because most of the time when you're like, you know, nitpicking tank damage, you should be in a position where tank damage matters. If you're doing a 7, not 7, but you're doing like a 2 or a 3, tank damage don't matter. You can time it with anything. If you're doing a 16, yeah, now it matters a little bit. Now you might want to play the tank that's doing the most damage, or that can do the biggest pulls, or that all these different things. The gameplay for top 1% is significantly different for the gameplay of the average player. And unfortunately, we see people look at the MDIs, look at the top 1%, look at their group comps and say, this is meta. And then we see that trickle down into key levels that don't need meta at all. And I think that's a huge problem, but that's not something that like, I think is wrong with the top 1%. I think it's wrong with the WoW community for seeing that and being like, this is what I have to play. Like I remember back in like season 2 when AUG came out and dungeons were still 1 to 20 or 2 to 20. You'd see people doing like a 6 and looking for an AUG. Like, dude, you don't need an AUG 6. And also, most likely that AUG's going to do bad because it's such a low level that people aren't geared, people don't know what they're doing yet. That AUG's just, he trickles off of the group's damage. So that's one of the things that made AUG so hard to balance, was that if they made AUG really strong for the lower end of players, then it felt great. You could bring an AUG, it did a bunch of damage, it amped everybody up. But that increase on the higher level would make AUG insane. And if they nerfed AUG to counteract with the higher level, it would butcher it on the lower level. So AUG was it still is extremely difficult to balance, because it's not necessarily a unique play or like a individual play style. It's kind of based around your group too, lining up cooldowns, doing all the stuff like that. So AUG can be extremely good in high keys and with like coordinated groups, and that same AUG can be bad in low keys with unorganized groups. How do you balance that? So, my little rant. Still no servers. Let's see. I think I'm gonna have my buddy he's playing Resto Shaman. So let's take a peek at Resto. Let's make sure that he's not going in blind to a bunch of different things that changed. I played Resto Shaman for a season. I actually really liked Resto or Shamans. They were sweet. Rogue, Totemic. My wife just got home. Hey, baby. All right, let's take a look at Resto. So all healing reduced by 5%, spouting spirits healing reduced by 35%, ancestral awakening now heals for 25 and 50% of the amount healed was 15 to 30. That's a nice little buff. And then just a couple issues fixed. So I think they're still in a good spot, which is nice. I think elemental and enhancement are still in a good spot too. I was talking to my buddy about what he should play to heal, and I think he wanted to play priest for a little bit. But I think that I don't know if Disc is as good of a spot as he would have hoped. So I think he's leaning towards Resto, which is when you're picking a class, picking alt specs is always nice. Like I like Windwalker, which makes Monk easier to play. If he likes Elemental, that makes Resto easier to play, because if there's an opportunity for him to play DPS instead, or we have another healer, or we need a DPS in a raid, having him be able to switch, or just yourself being able to switch to keeping your main in the raid on a different spec, it's always nice. which usually I'll mythic plus main as a tank and play rogue in every raid. So that's probably what it's looking like this season. I don't know how much of a need for Windwalker there's going to be, but if there is, I'll happily play Windwalker in raid. I think they're pretty fun. I've been enjoying them in Mythic Plus. All right. Let's see. I think we might wrap it for today. We'll wait for this beta build to come up. I'll probably put up a video, go through and all those changes that we just got. But I'm gonna take this time while we have some server downtime, hang out with the wife, do a little bit of work, and then maybe, depending on when it comes back up, maybe we do it again today. If not, we'll do it again tomorrow, and we'll have some dungeons ready to go. So until then, guys, thanks for popping in. Appreciate everybody.